I think in TV and film, every time you've got a character who has a disability, that is their whole point. That is their whole character, is their disability, and that shouldn't be the case. So I would love to play a character who gets to fall in love, who gets a good job, and not the main focal point is the disability. So I think that is really important.
I have never claimed to be a scholar, even more so a scholar of disability or race. But I do consider myself a graduate of honors in having cerebral palsy and experiencing ableism on a micro and macro degree. So I feel qualified on at least more than half of a level to speak on disability representation in media and the overall lack of intersectionality we see in the way that disability is portrayed on screen. Growing up as a disabled little girl who was bit by the creativity bug at the very least by the age of 3 and started going to almost all of the musicals her big brother was in by the age of 4, all I ever wanted was to see someone like me in the movies, in a studio, on a stage, or simply just given the space to tell their story in a way that resonated with me and all of the other disabled little girls growing up alongside me, even if I didn't know them. I knew they were out there. Starting this video essay project, I was just going to simply leave it at what I saw growing up, or rather, what I didn't, and explain the ripple effect this would have on the way that people talked about and viewed disability going forward. But what I found is that a topic like this is very difficult to be put in one simple thesis statement. The complexities are rich. The emotion brought up with these talking points brings out so many questions, so many and another thing moments, so much genuine touchstones of anger and frustration and grief. Because at the end of the day, I was a little girl who had close to no one to look to model after, to aspire to be, and nothing that confirmed to me that to be me and an artist, an actress, a singer, a writer, a poet, was possible. This may be, for the newer generation of little girls and children like me, starting to change though. Back in the summer, my Instagram algorithm brought me the trailer for the Disney Plus original movie Out of My Mind.
My name is Melody Brooks, and I have cerebral palsy. Go ahead and stare. It's 2002. You've never seen a girl in a wheelchair who doesn't talk before? Here's a list of things I'll never get used to. Butts in my face because people don't see me. Staircases, people who say hi but sound so sad. Obviously, this isn't my voice. I can't talk. And I can sound like whoever I want. So I picked Jennifer Aniston.
A story about a young girl named Melody with spastic quadriplegia cerebral palsy. She's navigating middle school, learning how to fit in with her peers, and learning how to find her voice. I was immediately intrigued as hearing Jennifer Aniston saying the word cerebral palsy in 2024 was not on my bingo card. And I also knew that this was going to be a turning point for the conversation surrounding disability. A major company like Disney putting a story like this onto the forefront felt big. I immediately started doing research on where this came from, since the trailer mentions it being based on the novel of the same name. Looking up the book, my worst fear was indeed confirmed. It was written by an able-bodied woman. And upon investigating even more, I realized the main character in the book was Black. The girl cast in the main role for the movie was not. Neither was any family member. Two things are very wrong with this picture, right? But like any good supposed scholar, or even scholar cosplayer, I read the book and watched the film before reserving any final judgments. Throughout my time with them, I just kept asking myself the same questions. Why are stories about disability so allergic to joy? And why are they always told by people who have no experience with disability, or who are only just adjacent to people who are? And why is it always a disabled person who is white, or straight, or cis, or so non-layered that the only thing they have going for them is the fact that they're disabled? This is a pattern in almost every piece of disability-centric media or ciclet media I've come across. The first time I ever saw a recurring disabled character who was Black was in Malcolm in the Middle, and he was almost exclusively used as comedic relief and was a side character that had little to no depth. No character exploration, no episodes that centered around him specifically, no moment of genuine joy or normalcy, or even a look into his daily life as someone in a wheelchair. All he was good for was a laugh. Now, many would probably argue that a show like Malcolm in the Middle wasn't going to serve as an example for accurate portrayal and representation of the intersectionality of a character like Stevie. It's a sitcom, a comedy-driven family show. But why does that mean that stories like this are all we get? All Black disabled people get? No academic journal could lead me to a straightforward answer, but I did find one that I feel connects tightly to the relationship between the social implications of disability and what media and movies are supposed to make you do, which is feel. In the article Feeling Disability, Theories of Effect in Critical Disability Studies, a perfect sentence encapsulates this. There is something instantly emotive around the idea of a child or young person living a short life. People are affected, often deeply, by the idea that a young person's life course is reduced through the presence of impairment. The main job of art in the vessel of a movie is to pull as much emotion out of an audience as possible. This is why the trauma porn-esque lens of sicklit or disability media is so popular. The tragedy of a young disabled schoolgirl being ostracized by her peers and left squandering for support by the adults around her is going to draw more feeling from an audience than a disabled main character just going out and making it their mission to find joy. Whether that's finding love, or finding a job, or fostering meaningful relationships, at least if the goal is to pander to an able-bodied audience, which is realistically is always the case.
I think because my disability has been such a focus, understandably so, because I am the first ever Nessa Rose, I understand it, but if my disability is something that is going to be a focus, I would love if I had an opportunity to talk about more questions involving disability rather than just representation, although obviously representation is important. I wish I had more of an opportunity to talk about just overall in the industry why there is a lack of education when it comes to disability in general, what resources there should be, what resources there aren't, shitty LA sidewalks, why I was basically kicked out of my last apartment because the elevator broke, just things like that people don't think of. Why it's shitty to leave scooters in the middle of the sidewalk.
Period.
Because disabled people can't get to them.
Or when people park their bikes right in front of ramps.
Right. There's just things that non-disabled people just don't consider really at all. And specifically, again, putting more pressure on non-disabled people to do the work, and rather than just calling us inspiring and doing nothing to actually help disabled people, actually help disabled people. Because if you're calling us inspiring and not doing anything for the movement itself, then what exactly did I inspire you to do?
The problem with popular illness-centric movies like The Fault in Our Stars, The Fundamentals of Caring, and now Out of My Mind, is that they are movies for able-bodied audiences to look to and find some sort of benefit for themselves, rather than taking a beat to look inside themselves and question their own biases, and deconstruct maladaptive ideologies they have been passively taught by systems that uphold ableism, and working on making these spaces better and more conducive for the disabled peers. And God forbid a disabled person has layered markers of identity. God forbid intersectionality plays a role in a disabled person's experience. Tragedy has consistently been at the forefront of disability-centric media rather than education, rather than reform. Out of My Mind was a powerful movie and a powerful story, but not because our main character was creating powerful bonds and deconstructing what it is that made her feel so genuinely low about herself. It was because after everything she had worked for, after her and her family fighting insurance and her school and the people around her to see her as a person and not some massive subject to tackle, she still never wins. She never gets to the point where she feels a little more comfortable being who she is and owning her body. A monologue at the end of the movie feels so minuscule compared to a full body of work where nobody gives her the space to exist as she is.
Sometimes I need a push, but I won't be pushed around.
After being underestimated by the adults around her, ignored and manipulated by the children around her, all she gets is this one tiny moment where she is able to use her voice in an impactful way, and she reaps no benefit whatsoever. This trend and trope is all too common and speaks volumes about the way non-disabled creatives and audience members view our stories and our lives. One-dimensional, unproductive, and unfulfilling.
Also, going back to the identity, it 100%, would also be nice to be asked about my other identities, because, I am, obviously, a disability is a huge part of who I am, but I'm not just wheelchair girl.
Right.
I'm so much more than just wheelchair girl.
Small strides were made in this example. a disabled actor playing a disabled character, accurate depictions of inaccessibility, and tiny moments of triumph that, while not very important in how things will end for her, feel refreshing and very sweet to watch. At the very core of it, what many of us in the disability community are asking for is for stories that are impactful without being tragic, without feeling like surface-level PSAs, without serving as ways to feed into the pre-existing harmful biases the world already carries about us. We are disabled and happy, disabled and contemplative, disabled and queer, disabled and trans, disabled and black, disabled and in love, disabled and heartbroken, disabled and bored, disabled and tired of it, disabled and content, disabled and human. Our stories deserve to be told in intricate and careful ways, not feeling afraid of intersectionality and having the gall to explore different avenues of our personhood rather than just disability. For centuries, we have been taught that all we are good for is serving as examples, as warnings, or inspiration stories. I want us to be affirmed in our nuances on purpose, and in places that we ourselves don't have to create. I want us to be seen as whole people and whole characters with disability as a part, rather than an entire makeup as a person. In the words of the great mother Haley Williams in reference to her inner child, I would tell her to learn now that life is both and.
That was real far. Yeah.
Okay, hold on. Okay. This is me in editing. I just wanted to give a quick thank you to my good friend Marissa Bodie for letting me speak to her for this particular video essay. I wish I could upload the full 2-hour conversation that we had, but also I would want to save your brains because her and I just jump around from topic to topic like hot potatoes. So if you're interested in that, maybe I'll post the full 2 hours. But no, thank you so much, Marissa, for letting me speak to you. I figured as somebody who was not black and is a white disabled woman, I wanted to let somebody who had actually experienced that corner of intersectionality lend their voice to this topic. So I urge everyone, if you have not gone to see Wicked, please do go see Wicked. She is fantastic. Everybody in the cast is fantastic. But I hope you enjoyed. I'm gonna go to bed now. Bye.